I love being a barber, I love being a musician, I love being a husband, but there's nothing I love more than being a dad.
Welcome to the Skilled Dad Podcast. This is the podcast for dads of all seasons to learn the things that they can do and engage so that they can go and equip the next generation for success. Here we sit down with everyday dads just like you to learn from their story, get inspired, and then start getting after it. So we invite you to join in, see what you can take away from this story, and apply to your life on your journey to becoming the skilled dad. Hey guys, and welcome to the Skilled Dad Podcast. My name is Zach Reeser. I'm your host. And if you listen to the podcast back in the fall, we want to say welcome back. If this is your first time, we want to say welcome to the party. For the first time, you've joined a good one. I would like to say that there's a lot of good reasons why I haven't put an episode out for a while, but the reality is it would all just be considered excuse. And here we are. So for the many of you that had reached out to ask about new episodes, here we go. And I actually have one of those gentlemen with me here tonight, Mr. Eli Matteson. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, man.
Well, I'm glad.
I'm doing good.
I'm glad to have you here. I'm going to share a little bit about our background
Yeah.
and also what led us here tonight in a little bit of haste. And there's a reason for that haste, but
Okay.
so
Yeah.
what was this, man? It's like, honest, this is like 6 weeks ago. For those of you, it might have been 4.
That was like 6.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For those of you that have listened to the podcast before, you've heard a few references to my barber and my barber shop, which seems to be the genesis of a lot of my motivation. And so I'm in there about 6 weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I sit down and if we happen to show a video of this, I typically roll with a attempt at a goatee, but I had shaved it because my son kind of made a bet he'd never see me without it. And then when I did shave it, he cried. My daughter cried. Pretty sure my wife cried, and then I cried.
Yeah, I would too.
No doubt.
Shave your facial hair off.
If I had to look at this every day, I would probably cry too. But so I'm sitting in the chair with Nick, who's my typical barber, and this gentleman across from me here is standing there, and then all of a sudden he almost takes like a gasp, like, "Zach, is that you?" I'm like, yeah,
It was
it
the
is.
facial hair, man. I saw you walk in, but it didn't compute at first.
I think you cried too.
A little bit. I was like, oh.
I won't shave again. I won't do it. But he's like, "Hey, I wanted to tell you I've been listening to the Skilled Dad podcast." And I don't remember the exact words, but it had made a big impact on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I said, "Hey, I would like to know why. I'd like to learn, like, hey, what are the things that are helpful?" I get some good feedback from folks, and at the end of the day, the goal is to, help. And so I said, "Here's my number. Send me a text, and then let's connect." So about a week and a half ago, mind you, that was about 6 weeks ago.
So
A week and a half ago, I'm in the Blockhouse, Franklin, and getting ready to get my hair cut. And Nick says, "Hey, Eli ever text you?" I was like, "Nope, never did." I figured he just didn't actually want to talk. And then lo and behold, this gentleman walks in through the door. And so I tell Nick, I said, "I'm just going to stare at him,
Oh,
see what happens." And
gosh.
so I just kind of like friendly version of mean mugged you through the glass.
I knew as soon as I saw you, man. I was like, oh gosh, I texted him. I felt so bad.
Oh, it was hilarious. And then he texted me like right away.
Literally, while you were sitting in the chair, I sent you a text.
Yeah. And then on my way out, I said, "Hey man, I'll text you in 3 weeks. It'll be
And it
great."
took you a week to text me back.
It did. It did. I wanted you to sweat a little
I
bit. I
felt
guess that was me.
horrible, man. You left, and so for those of you who don't know, I'm a barber at the same barber shop, and I think I originally met you. I gave you a haircut
Yeah.
when Nick was out,
Yeah.
And that was like back in October, I think it was. It was like my
Yeah.
first or second week at the shop.
Yep. It was.
But
Time flies, you're having fun.
I know. So I just didn't text you back, and I felt horrible. I even told my wife, I was like, I need to text Zach, and she's like, "We'll do it." And I just like every time I like have a free moment, it gets taken up by children.
Look, here's a confession. When I get a text and I'm in the middle of something, I'll like look at it, I'll read it, hey, I'll respond back. And then you have, I get texts from work, friends, family, and then I forget.
I do the exact same thing.
It's horrible.
I feel like a horrible person when I do it because I'm like, oh man, I feel like they probably waited for a response for an hour and just were like, okay, I guess he didn't. He left me on red. And I'm like,
A bated breath, just waiting for.
I actually have it turned
That's
off.
all I want.
I have it turned off so people can't see when I've read their messages because I do it so much.
Yeah, guilty as charged.
I feel bad, but I get a lot of texts when I'm busy, and I'll read it really quick, put my phone down, and then just forget all about it.
It's a thing. Some people are really good. I have a couple of friends that are just like killer texters.
Mm-hmm.
And then, look, I'm not. I'm working on it, though. It is something that I have journaled about, talked about with, people. Get better.
I'm gonna be honest. I really would rather just talk to somebody on the phone. And I feel like that's kind of like frowned upon nowadays, especially with millennials.
Mm.
Like my wife, for instance, I love her. She hates calling people.
Mm.
She would rather text and not get a response than like try to call them. And I'll call first, and if they don't answer, then I send a text.
It's quicker.
It is, man. And
there's
if
use
they're
for
busy,
everything.
they won't answer, and I'll send them a text.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I could keep coming up with like excuses, like in the middle of the workday, I'll text somebody. We've gone down a good rabbit hole. This is good. See, I'm liking
Talking
it.
about texting.
I'm liking it.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we're not the only ones. But if you are a perfect texter, please send us tips. You can go to
Tell
skilldad.com.
us how to be nice to people.
Be better.
Yeah. Excuses are, how do I say this in clean version? Excuses are like nose hairs. Everybody's got them.
We try, unless my son asked me. I'm like,
Yeah.
look, there's no excuses.
There's no excuse. No
There are
excuse.
no
Buck up,
excuses.
boy.
Listen, or my daughter actually is probably the one that's like, look, come on, you know better.
Yeah.
So with texting, the genesis of this. So we had that conversation.
We did.
And that week, there were two other people that had texted me,
Mm-hmm.
asking about, hey, been listening to the show, really enjoyed it, got a lot from it. When are you going to keep going? And I was like, man, felt very convicted because of my excuses. Just need to get my foot back on the pedal. And you've got something coming here in about 3 weeks. I was like, you know what? I wonder if Eli'd want to get on the show with me.
Yeah.
And I won't be able to do it again for like several months, maybe. So I'm just going to reach out and see.
So you get about 5 more texts.
Yeah.
From me and 10 other people to go, hey.
Well, exactly. Well, the reason that I wanted to, talk to you is because, I mean, you got another baby coming.
Yeah. Dude, any day, man.
So I want to get into your story here shortly. Baby number 3.
Mm-hmm.
And Eli is actually like a bundle of firsts here tonight because you called out that you think you might be the youngest dad.
I think so.
That's been on the show. I think you might be right.
Gosh, next one you're gonna have a 21-year-old. I feel it.
Maybe.
Some fresh out of high school dad.
Well, it's funny because I do want to like. You said something earlier tonight when I'm getting set up, and I'm attempting to do a very like low level video version of this podcast right now.
Yeah.
So I'm wearing my Blockhouse shirt.
Yeah.
For those that are watching.
Yep.
If I even put this out, honestly, we're gonna find out. But got the iPhone.
It'll end up on MySpace or something.
I still have that account.
Yeah.
It's full of viruses.
Twitter or something.
Yeah. It'll be viral for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
But so potentially the first video version of the podcast. Second youngest gentleman here on the show. And what you said when we were setting up was, I don't even know like if I qualify because if I have enough dad years. Yeah. And I love that comment because we have guys that aren't even dads yet that are listening to the show because I heard about it, and it's kind of gearing them up for different things. We have brand new dads. We have veteran dads. Some of the guys that will be coming on the show fall in the same category. But what I like about the conversations I've had just as a result of the show is that we're all guys living our life, whatever our current story is, but the unifying factor that we have is that we're dads.
Yeah.
And when you take that step into the dad zone, like, you now understand things that only other dads understand. So you got plenty to share.
Exhaustion.
Hey, that's part of it.
Yeah.
That's part of it. So that's a big intro. But hey, thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you.
Thank your wife.
Yeah.
If we get a phone call on this thing and you just got a piece, you just do what you got to do, man. You better check that.
Probably. I don't want to leave the ringer on, but I gotta have it near me.
You got to have that ready. She might sneeze.
She
and
might
you're gonna be like,
sneeze,
hey.
water breaks, man.
Oh.
Yeah.
So if you would, tell us a little about yourself, and you take that wherever you want to go.
Yeah. Again, my name's Eli Matteson. Born and raised in the state of Oregon. Now live here in the great state of Tennessee.
That's right.
Yeah. 26 years old. Got married in 2017 to one of my best friend's older sister. I've known them since I was 7. My wife, she's 3 years older than me.
Your best friend's older sister?
Yeah, he's one of my. I got 3 best friends that are like. I mean, we're all best friends.
Yeah.
He's in the group. But yeah, I've known him since I was 7.
So you've known her since you were 7.
Yep, 7 years old.
Nice.
Her parents were moving to Mexico to plant a church, start a church because they're pastors, and my family was moving to the town in Oregon they were from, and we actually rented their house from them. So that's how I met them.
Wow.
Yeah, so back in 2000, I think, or something like that.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so I got married in 2017 to my wife's name is Kayla. We've got 3 kids now. We got married December of 17, pregnant the end of February of 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got a year in there.
Well, no. And
Wait, December 17th?
17th. It was like 4 months, 3 months.
Okay, yeah, I think
December, January, February. Yeah, 3 months.
Yeah,
Unexpected.
you didn't get a year in there.
No,
my math
dude.
is off tonight.
So we got pregnant really early with our son. So I got 3. My third's due any day. So we'll have my oldest. He's 3. His name's Zephaniah.
Nice.
My second child, my daughter, her name's Alice. She will be 2 in May. So she's not even 2 yet.
Wow.
And then our third is another daughter. We're going to name her Delilah.
Ah. So they're pretty close.
So we got 3, I guess 3 under 3 or something like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of diapers and pull-ups. Luckily, my son's 90% potty trained.
We talked about that.
Which comes down to the only thing he can't do is wipe himself yet. So if that's all it's taken for him, I'm good now, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're out here living in Tennessee.
3 under 3.
3 under 3.
Well, right now 2 under 3.
Yeah.
And then, baby will be coming. So mine, I've got a pretty decent, 3-year spread for pretty much all of them. For those that have close kiddos, what's it been like? Had 2 under 3, and now you've got a third one coming. That's pretty close, which is good. But
yeah. I mean, it's been fun.
Yeah.
It's been probably the most tired me and my wife have ever been in our lives.
Yeah.
And my wife's story is crazy and mine's crazy, but we've been tired and now we've really been tired. But I just told my wife, I think it was yesterday, I was like, we were sitting at our dinner table and our kids, like normal, didn't want to eat dinner.
Yeah.
They just took 2 bites and were like, we want to go play. And I was like, I guess we'll give you peanut butter and jelly before you go to bed to make sure you have eaten something. But I was just telling her that I was just watching them play and I looked at her and I was like, this is like the best thing that has ever happened to me. And I wouldn't trade being tired or frustrated or sleepless nights or fights with my wife because we disagree on parenting styles sometimes. I wouldn't trade any of it. So it's been
So for somebody that might be in that kind of, hey, I'm prepping to be a dad mode, I'm just curious, why is it the best thing that's ever happened to you? Like, can you put words to that?
Hmm.
I'm full of questions tonight. We're getting fired
That's
up
a
out of
good
the
one.
gate, baby.
I got a lot of stuff to talk about too. So
Okay.
why is it the best thing that's ever happened to me?
Yeah. So I saw your description. I'll let you process that question for a minute. But I saw it might have been your Instagram. One of the says, barber, but the last piece was
Oh, my bio.
your bio.
Yeah.
Yeah. But your last piece is like, maybe it might have been a post.
It's
The best thing is being a dad for you. So like, I saw that.
Oh, is it this one with my son taking him to school?
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yep. I love being a barber. I love being a musician. I love being a husband. But there's nothing I love more than being a dad.
Yeah. So why?
Just fair warning, you might see me cry tonight because my kids are literally like my world.
I'm not going to try to make you
Yeah,
cry.
you might I'm talking about my kids, you might get it. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Raising kids not only teaches you to be the most selfless person you can be. If it's what you want, if you want kids, and this is like, because there's a lot of dads out there that didn't want kids, and now they're just trying to make it. And I go out, I feel it, but if it's what you've always wanted, like to have kids, you literally have to give up everything you've ever wanted for a season. And I'm not saying like your dreams have to be crushed for the rest of your life, but there's no being a rock star when you have 3 under 3 at home and a wife who needs help taking care of them. And it's the most rewarding thing in the world to hear a 3-year-old go, "I love you." It's the most rewarding thing in the world. Especially when you just like are busting your butt to make sure that you're doing everything you can to give them all the time in the world, to love them, to support them, to feed them.
Yeah.
It's fulfilling to see little humans that you're raising become their own person and know that they couldn't have done it without you. And it sounds kind of conceited, but like my son could not have learned how to pee standing up into a toilet without me helping him, right? And I don't know, it's just I make this joke. It's like I have tiny humans and I am their leader. Right? I'm starting my own army, but there's just no words to holding a baby and hearing it cry for the first time.
Yeah.
Like fresh out, like right out of the womb, a human life has just come into your hands, and it's rewarding. It's a good feeling to have babies.
Yeah.
To love and just see them grow up.
It's hard to describe.
It is hard to describe life. It's amazing being a dad.
I think I asked for a description because one day I'm hoping that somebody's be like, boom, there it is. Mind blown.
I hope that happens. I don't know if it will, man.
How could I?
Everybody's.
But it's one of those things as far as describing it.
Hard.
It's hard to describe it.
I will say this.
Yeah.
For those of the listeners that are believers, when my first child was born, I felt like I had only scratched the surface of how much God loved me. By how much love I had from my child.
Yeah.
And how much love I have now for my children. And so that would be my best description, is we have not even scratched the surface of how much God loves us, if that's how we love our children.
It's a good description.
Yeah.
That one has, it's a good description.
Yeah.
So you mentioned some of your story.
Yeah.
You want to dive into some of that at all? Or?
I'll tell a little fun fact.
Yeah.
So my wife is a cancer survivor.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And she had radiation down where her like uterus would be.
Yep.
And so she actually wasn't supposed to have kids
Wow.
naturally. The doctors are like, chances are the lowest they could be you ever have kids naturally. So now we're on our third, which is just great. So little miracle babies.
Yeah.
So
There's a small percentage.
it was like
You got it.
like a 0.1% chance she'd ever have kids. So, so we're.
How old? I mean,
She was 22 when she had cancer.
young.
Yeah, she was 22, 23, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we got baby number 3 on the way. And
awesome.
my wife's healthy. She just hit 5 years, August of 2020, I believe.
Oh, wow.
So she's like totally cured.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah. So that's a fun story with our babies on the way.
Yeah.
The babies that the doctor said would never happen. So for those of you who are listening, if you're in a boat like that, number one, I understand.
Mm.
It's hard to know that there's a chance you might never have kids. But I think everything happens for a reason. And I think if you are meant to have kids, whether you adopt or don't, or have them naturally, I mean, it's more about the love you give children than it is about them being natural babies, you know? So
that's a fair shout out.
Yeah.
That's such a hard topic,
Yeah,
right? Because I know, unfortunately, like not a lot that have had challenges for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
And then, some were surprised, but
Yeah.
when you have a kid in your life, be able to show the love, the discipline that goes with love and training up a child in the way they should go is, so that's like one of the biggest opportunities for impacting the future that we'll have.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
It's amazing. Back to my story.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, there's a lot. I got a lot. I've done a lot of things. I had Nick, actually, the guy who cuts your hair. The other day made a joke. He's like, Eli, the 26-year-old who's done every job you can think of. Which isn't entirely true, but I've done a lot of jobs. So my dad was cowboy, rancher in Eastern Washington, grew up that way.
Legit cowboy.
Oh, yeah, like outlaw cowboy. Like he would go. My dad's got the craziest stories of his life, man. He used to like go to the Mexican mafia cockfights.
Oh, wow.
Used to steal horses off the Yakima reservation. He's done crazy stuff, dude. Crazy stuff. But
do we need to like
long story
cut that
short,
out of this?
Nah,
Is he
it's
okay
fine.
now,
No, I just won't say his name. But
yeah.
But he changed his life over. He became a pastor.
Nice.
Gave all that up. Started following the Lord. Did construction almost like my whole life. Was a pastor on the weekends, contractor during the week.
Mm-hmm.
So my first job ever was building custom decks.
Oh,
yeah.
We need to talk outside of this and give you some tips.
Custom decks. So that was my first job ever. I was homeschooled.
Nice.
All the way through until my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to a high school part-time. Dropped out of that 2 months before graduation because I just could not stand it. I thought it was the worst thing ever. Went back to just full homeschool.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Graduated. Dude, I've been all over. I worked in the coffee industry for a while. Did live audio engineering.
What, coffee industry, like roasting?
Like roasted coffee. Managed a coffee shop. Barista life,
yeah.
You name it. I painted cars for a living. Yeah.
And you remember, you're like the youngest guy in this podcast.
I know, dude. I've done things.
So you've done some things.
Yeah. At one point, I was working 3 jobs.
Wow.
Which sucked. It was when me and my wife were dating. And 2 of the jobs I would start at 5 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would get off at 9 that night for 4 days in a row every week.
Between the 3 jobs?
Yeah. And then those 3 days off, I was working a different job.
Oh, got it.
So I didn't have a day off. I would go to church and go back to work. So on Sundays, yeah, I was trying to make it. Yeah, I've done quite a few things.
So I'm curious, between construction and all the different pieces, have you had any of those, or maybe even the mix of them with your two that you've got now? Some things that you've learned in those that you're like, you know what, because I've experienced this or this, I've been able to teach in a way or in a skill set or something like that that you've been equipped with what you've done. Because you've done a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah. I would say I've learned how I don't want to communicate to my children.
Okay.
That's what I've learned.
Yeah.
Cause like the auto body industry,
Mm-hmm.
construction is, I don't know what it's like out here in Tennessee. I don't know what it may be different for some people, but
Sure.
my experiences have been you get cussed at and yelled at all day by people who are just angry at their lives. And it's like the most uncomfortably how do I say this? It's just a kind of a toxic work environment if you are trying to not be angry all the time.
It's hard
It's
work.
hard work.
It's hard work.
And with hard work comes a lot of swearing, a lot of frustration, a lot of drinking, and a lot of just who can I blame stuff. So so I've learned how I don't want to communicate, which is I don't want to be the dad that yells. I don't want to be the dad that doesn't give reasons why. So, like, I had a boss once. I asked, why do I need to do it this way because I was doing construction. He said, that doesn't make sense. I would do it this way. And he just, like, lost his temper and was like, because I just told you to do it. Just shut up and do it. So I would say that's the biggest thing is I've learned how I don't want to behave to my children when I teach and help them become adults.
Yeah. Have you been successful with that so far?
Oh God, no, man. I yelled today. If we're being honest, I yelled today and I caught myself and I was like, oh, I don't. But
it's the check.
Yeah, it is. We were in Target even today. I told you we were at Target this morning and my son started like giving one of the toddler fits on the floor because we were leaving the toy aisle and he did not want to do that. And I was actually pretty stoked on this because instead of yelling at my son in Target in front of everybody and being that family, I got down on his level and just was like, hey, listen, we're going to go to a park after this. And I wasn't we had already talked about it. So this wasn't like me trying to reward his bad behavior.
Yeah.
I was just like, hey, we're going to go to a park after Target. I was like, but if you're going to keep acting like this, we're not going to go to the park. I was like, we'll just go home and you can go sit in your bedroom for a while. And I was like, or you can leave the toy section and be happy and we'll go play at a park after this. And he just like sat there and thought for a second. And he's like, oh, I'm going to go. And so I was like, all right, let's just go then. And so we walked away and he was fine the rest of the time. So
gave him a choice.
I gave him a choice, but I was listening to some podcast. It wasn't this one.
Clearly. If it's recently.
Listen, it wasn't recently, but it was something about getting onto your kid's level, like getting down to communicate rather than like standing and yelling. Because like myself, I don't respond to people yelling down to me. And I'm clearly know my son doesn't either. So
a lot of us don't.
Yeah.
I mean, even the experience you had with the boss before, I think, I'll make a generalized statement, but we've all had versions of that.
Another thing I learned is I don't want to have a job that takes up my family time. I worked for Pepsi for a year, and I worked in their warehouse. And at one point, this was when my wife was pregnant with my son. I worked nights. My wife worked days. At one point, there was one paycheck where I had 151 hours in 2 weeks.
Ooh, baby.
It was like nonstop overtime. It was work till the job's done, load all the trucks all night long. So like one day I went to work at, I think it was 2 in the afternoon, and I got home at like almost noon the next day. And then I was back at work at 5 that night.
Oof.
So I had 5 hours of sleep and then went back to work. Or not even, I had 4 hours to sleep.
Yeah.
And so it got to the point where I literally never saw my wife. She was pregnant. Like I would never see her because I'd be asleep. She'd be gone. And I was like, I don't want a job where like it's pointless for me to have a family. because I don't ever see them. And so that's another thing I learned, is to not let myself get into a job where I end up making that the priority over the family.
So you kind of made these choices before you became a dad,
Yeah.
and you've stuck to it,
Mm-hmm.
which is awesome.
Yeah, it's been hard.
Yeah,
Yeah, especially when those jobs normally financially pay really well
right.
if you're working that long. So
Yeah, it's a tough, it's a tough balance,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And over the last couple of years, some of the things have changed, but it's created a new balance with those that work at home,
Yeah.
some going office, some going hybrid. That's a whole kind of episode on that. But I'm curious, one of the things when we talked and you were shaming me that day, one thing is, if you didn't say this, tell me. But I think I remember you saying, like, I've listened to podcasts and it's changed my life,
Oh yeah.
which that's a big statement. So I'm curious. You were listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
We had like 20 episodes.
Yeah.
You got through them and listened to them, and they had an impact. What was it
There's
that stuck out to you?
a couple things.
Okay.
I feel like there's quite a few episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember which one specific, but a lot of them are talking about being present with your children.
Yep.
And I was probably the worst. I was so unpresent. Like, I would go home from work and I would just look at my phone.
I want to touch on that one.
Yeah.
when
I
we
would
come
get
back.
home and I would look at my phone.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I was so unpresent, and it was like the biggest fight with my wife.
Yeah.
Is I would just like zone out because my day was, I went to work, I'm tired, I want to be left alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would, even though I was present in the room, I had many, Dad, can you play on the floor with me? And I would say 1 second about 100 times.
Mm-hmm.
So that is probably the biggest thing that has hit me, is I caught myself being an unpresent dad. Second one,
Yeah.
is I think there was 2 guys on the show that talked about how they've had miscarriages in their marriage.
Yep.
So me and my wife had one in March of 2021. First one hit me really hard. Started drinking a lot. I was, and that's what kind of took me into my unpresentness.
Yeah.
Is I had a lot of frustration.
Mm-hmm.
So it was good to just kind of hear other dads talk about how they kind of dealt with it.
Yeah.
You know? And then the other thing is, and I think those are the 2 biggest things.
Yeah. Can I
that
touch on those real quick?
Yeah.
So like the first one's a little ironic, because before having the kiddos, you didn't want to have something that would take you away from home, but then you find yourself at home.
Yeah.
I'm not calling you out.
No.
Because this story, like, I was there.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to a lot of guys that, it happens. And so
Yeah, it does.
that call out, it's a reminder.
Being a dad is one of the most tiring and stressful things I have ever done in my life.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to get sucked into, like, this is too stressful right now because I'm exhausted. I'm just going to find something that I can, like, zone out on.
Escapism,
Exactly.
a little bit.
That one. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
The second one, there were a couple that shared about it.
yeah.
There's another gentleman that wants to share his story to help others.
Yeah.
That have done that because they've experienced the pretty significant experience.
Yeah.
In that time, did you were there resources there for you to, like?
If we're being honest,
Yeah.
I know.
So if someone's going through right now,
Yeah.
is
There
there a good place?
No, which is sad because I was actually just talking to my wife today, actually, because I've recently met 2 other gentlemen that told me that they've had more than 1 miscarriage.
Yeah.
In their marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And when it happened, we were living in Redding, California for about 7 months, just like a transition to get here from Oregon. And all of my friends there are the either recently married with no children or not married at all with no children.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had nobody around
Mm-hmm.
that knew, like, because my parents have never experienced it.
Yeah.
And so I had nobody around that kind of knew how I was feeling.
Yeah.
And so I would get home from work and probably have like 4 or 5 beers. And then just like
Yeah.
chill. And then next day, same thing. Next day, same thing. Next day, same thing.
What pulled you out of that?
I think what pulled me out of that
Mm-hmm.
was I had an encounter with the Lord
Yeah.
that made me realize, and this is a big piece that I would say for any dad that's gone through this.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me, without realizing it, was blaming my wife.
Mm.
I was saying it's her fault this happened.
Mm.
And so I wanted nothing to do with the surrounding area of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just dawned on me that I was angry at my wife. And so I actually apologized to her. We put our kids to sleep, and we sat in my dining room table and cried for like an hour.
Mm.
And just talked it. And I told her, I was like, it's not your fault. It was never your fault. It's not any of our fault. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that would be a tip, is make sure you're not blaming your wife.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to do. Be like, you could have done this and this and this and this to make sure that your body was okay for the baby. But you didn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't the case.
Right.
So,
Right.
So yeah, so that's what kind of pulled me out, is I just like was laying in bed and I just heard, and for those of you who aren't believers, whatever you pray to or think, like,
yeah,
there was that voice in me that was like, you're angry at your wife and you think it's her fault.
Ouch.
Yeah.
You're not the only one I've heard that. I'll just take a little side note.
Yeah.
And if someone is listening to this that's experiencing this, I don't have firsthand knowledge to be able to like truly empathize. That said, I have several guys that have offered to be a connecting point on either resources or just someone that's been there, because I'm just going to call this out. It's also a thing that a lot of guys that I've talked to initially say, it's not something you just go and talk to your buddies about.
It's really not. And it's hard.
And
It should be.
Yeah.
It should be, but I feel like men are so stubborn with their masculinity that the thought of looking weak over a infant is like something we don't want to do.
Yeah. It's ironic too, because in some cases you find some people that both experienced it, but no one's saying it. And so there could be a bond there.
Exactly.
And so I'll just throw it out. If you know, if we can be of assistance,
Yeah.
you can go to skilledad.com and just shoot us a note through the website. Or email Zach@skilledad.com. And, you know, I'm not promising anything, but I can probably make some connections to help out, because it's, unfortunately, there's a lot of people experiencing that, right?
It is, yeah.
So
you hit me up, Eli the Hair Guy on Instagram.
Eli the Hair Guy on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk.
Yeah, because when we can come together on the different things that we're facing as dads, so like we said at the beginning, one of the common denominators about this show is we're all men and a lot of different life experiences, but the tie is the commonality that we're dads. And when you have the kid or kids, you just understand some things differently. And if you're listening to the show, I'm going to hedge a bet that you also, if you're this far into the show, then you have some desire to learn from other people, to be the best dad that you can be.
Yeah.
And that's what we're all here together to do. So thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
I know it's not easy and fun to talk about, especially on a podcast.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But somebody's got to talk about it, because there's a lot of hurting dudes out there.
Yeah. And you're Eli the Hair Guy.
And I'm
Eli
the Hair Guy.
You know, let's be bold, find our voice, put it out there. And if someone says, "Oh, not me," okay, cool.
If it's not you and it is you, I get it.
There you go.
I get it. But
see, this is why this is a good combo.
if it's hard, if you feel like it's hurting your marriage, do your wife a favor. Take her on a date and then go find a dude who's been through it and talk to him.
There you go. That's good advice right there, man.
Yeah.
All right. So, with the remaining time that we've got,
tell me.
Based off the two kiddos they have, the years of knowledge, you've got this. What are 3 things that you would impart upon either a new dad or a dad that has 303, or just any guy that comes up to you and says, "Eli, I'm looking for some tips. What have you learned that you would pass on to somebody else?"
Dude, I mean, the first one, it's kind of ironic because I learned it from podcasts, but be present.
How would you define being present? Let's switch it up a little bit that way.
Don't just be in the room. Be the room.
Ooh.
Don't just be in the room. Be the room.
Because you are the room.
Yeah.
When you're in there with them.
Yeah.
Whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could care less what's on the TV if you're on the floor. Because I have a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. If I'm sitting on the floor, they could care less what's on the TV or what's on the table to eat. They're like, "Oh, something's going on. He's sitting on the floor. Let's go play."
Yeah.
And so my son's going through this. "Dad, will you play with monster trucks on the floor with me?" So I've done it probably 50 times this week. So
keep doing it, man.
Don't be in the room. Be the room.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. You want 3 things? Dang.
I mean,
yeah,
at least 3.
Yeah.
But if you got like a bonus.
You know what? I'll give you a story real quick about being present.
Yeah. I like it.
This is kind of a hard story. I had to deal with it the other day. So my wife is pregnant, super pregnant, going through pregnancy pains, trying to deal with that. So I'm in my room helping her get figured out. My daughter is on the floor crying for some reason. I'm trying to take care of her, help my wife. My son comes in. "Dad, can you turn on Spider-Man Kids for me on the TV?" Right?
Yeah.
So I said, "Sure, 1 minute, bud. I'll be out in a sec."
Yeah.
About 10 minutes later, he comes back. "Can you turn on Spider-Man Kids for me?" I'm like, "No, I can't. Give me 1 minute. I'll be right out." And it had probably been like 30 to 40 minutes of like 1 minute. I'll be right out because I'm trying to get ready for work, help my wife, deal with my daughter. And then all of a sudden, my daughter needs a diaper change. And I'm like, okay. So I stopped what I'm doing. I pick her up. I'm walking into her room. And I look over in my son's room. And he's just sitting on his bed looking at the floor. And I like stop. I'm looking at him. And I was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he just looks up with me. And he's like, "You forgot about me, Dad." And so I changed my daughter's diaper and I went in my room and I just cried because I felt like the worst father I could ever be. He's like, "You forgot about me." After like 40 minutes. So he had been just waiting on me to show up for 40 minutes. And I'm not saying like, because everybody's got an excuse. And in the moment I had excuses why I was like, I'm trying to just get ready for work, help my wife, change my daughter's diaper, and make everybody happy. But it taught me, again, to be selfless. Because, like, quite honestly, there's days where I could just chew some gum and wait on brushing my teeth till I get home, like, if I need to. Because I'm trying to make sure everybody's happy. And
Sure.
We've all had it. And so I was just like, had I not taken so long to like pick out what I was going to wear that day, right? Because I work in a barber shop, so I kind of have to be like well groomed. kind of.
Yeah.
In
Kind
order,
of.
kind of. I can't look like a homeless person. Sometimes I do,
Kind of.
but so I'm trying to get ready. But if I had just said, you know what, like the first shirt that I put on could have been fine. This would have changed the whole scenario, right?
Yeah.
Instead, I changed my shirt again. The first shirt I put on would have been fine, and I would have had no issue. And so it's just like, it was just a wake up call. It was like, hey, just be selfless with everything you do to make sure that your kids feel like you are with, or you're always for them.
Mm.
And so I don't know. So it was just
Yeah.
kind of a wake up call. It was like, you know what? I can do that. I could take forever to get ready, or I could take 5 minutes and not be such a prima donna about what I'm wearing that day to the barber shop. And it would give me more time, because time is everything that we need for our kids. Our kids are
Yeah.
like time.
Yep.
And so
I've run into that as well, and desire to make breakfast, do all those, and then in the morning. So I'll just throw this one out there. What's helped me, and if you look like Steve Jobs and all those guys, the whole uniform deal.
Yeah.
I don't have a uniform per se.
Yeah.
But getting the clothes out even the night before and just having that there, because they're in bed.
Yeah.
Like, if I wasn't doing something like that, I'm probably watching TV or, just trying to get some quiet time before the next day. It's worked wonders.
I actually started doing that the next day.
Get out of town.
After that,
There you go.
I started picking out what I'm gonna wear, and I put it next to my bed on the floor. I fold it and set it in a little stack next to my nightstand.
So how do you feel now?
I feel like I should have been doing this all along.
So you had a system change.
Yeah.
Yeah, your system.
I adapted to what I needed to do.
Yeah, that's a good, because we're all going to step on landmines.
Yeah.
Especially like, I've got 7, 4, and 8 months, and each one's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I forget some stuff, and then there's like a whole new set of landmines. You're like, oh crap.
Yeah.
But that, if you have your goals that you've talked about, the things that you want, and then if we find out the system that we have in place is not hitting those goals,
yeah,
like that's a great catch and a great shift. So
adapt, man.
Adapt. I'm just glad that you took the action.
Yeah.
To do that.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah. So that was
good one.
So be present and be selfless.
Yep.
Those are my 2 big tips, I guess. And then the third tip. Oh man.
See, didn't your dad say that you should listen to your dad is a tip, right? Because he said, hey.
He's like, you should write some things down that you could touch on. And I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And then 2 days later, I still hadn't done it, just like it took me 3 weeks to text you. So, but I think the third one is don't forget, just because you're being selfless doesn't mean you need to give up you time.
That's
because it's actually selfish for you to give up you time. It's selfishness for you and your kids, because if you sacrifice your you time to always be around, then you go crazy and you become the angry dad who's resentful.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
So be present, be selfless, have you time.
Continue to invest in yourself.
Date your wife.
That only helps with your partner, your kids, being the healthiest version that you can be. That's not selfish. That's investment.
Yeah.
That's like gathering all the armor up and like the energy. So that's a great one, dude.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I told you I try to, I don't always, but I had a fishing trip that planned last week, but it actually went downhill because it rained a lot. So I didn't go. Yeah. And then, but I try to as much as I can. I've got a men's group I go to once a month where we literally just drink bourbon and smoke cigars. And I'm there until like 1 a.m, sometimes 2 a.m. But
that's a good men's group.
Yeah. And it's, I have my job. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I love my job. I love the people I work with. I'm not a stay-at-home dad. My wife's a stay-at-home mom. Hardest job out there. Right.
Yeah.
But do I want to go to work every day? No, No, I don't want to go to work every day. I don't know what man actually loves going to work every
What are you
day.
talking
Yeah,
about,
right.
man?
So, no, I don't want to go work every day, but I do it because I have children to feed, a house to pay for, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
I do it because I have made the choice to be a dad, and I'm going to invest every part I can into my family,
Mm-hmm.
except for my you time, which is I need at least one night, and I do it after like we did tonight, after our kids are asleep.
Yeah.
I'll say, babe, go to bed. I'm going to leave and just, I don't even care if I have to be out until 2 a.m. to get it. I'll do it because I just need something that I enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
right? That like, I'm
Recharge.
I'm not going, I don't go to work to recharge. I go to work to get a paycheck, right?
Yeah.
So.
You guys have fun there, though.
Oh, yeah, we do. It's a barber shop.
Yeah.
But
it's not just a barbershop.
it's a barber shop and a bar and
It's an experience.
It's an experience. It is. And the people I work with are some of the greatest people I've ever worked with.
It's an awesome crew. So if you are traveling in to visit Nashville, Tennessee, at some point, come down to Franklin.
Go to the factory.
It's in the factory in Franklin. I will say, make your appointment like a few weeks ahead of time because they're always booked out.
We are
busy. But it's an experience and it's fun. And that's why I like to go there because of you guys. And it's not just getting your hair cut. It's the community. Like you said, you can get some drinks while you're there. It's just fun.
We have
It's a good
some
spot.
words. Yeah.
I'm wearing a t-shirt.
Yeah. It's
Blockhouse Franklin.
It is. It's the best job I've ever had, if we're being honest.
You've had a few of them. So that's saying a lot.
It's the best job I've ever had.
That's awesome.
It was worth the extensive amount of student debt to become a barber. It was worth it.
You're going to knock that down.
Yeah.
One
eventually
cut at a time,
I'll get there. But it's, I mean, like I said, it's not my time.
Yeah.
It's not me being able to just like, when I'm there, I'm focusing on the customers, professionalism, haircuts. I try my hardest to not join in with people when they're complaining about their life.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
easy to do in that chair.
It is easy to do because, especially at a barber shop, because as a barber, we hear everybody's life story. And so
there you go.
We try and make it about the guy in the chair and not about us, right?
Sure.
So it's not my place to vent. It's not my place to do. It's my place to serve people. And so
that's a good outlook. Yeah.
So I go from serving my family to serving people to serving myself.
Yeah.
Which is that one night a month where I drink a old fashioned, smoke a cigar by a fire, and just hang out.
That sounds killer.
Yeah.
I wish we were doing that right now. We should have pre-planned this better.
Bought this. I almost texted you and said, should I bring beer? And I didn't do it.
We didn't for tonight, but that doesn't mean we can't for another time here in the Treehouse Studio. So, hey, man, if someone is coming in or just wants to check out what you got going on, you had already mentioned Eli, the hair guy, on Instagram. I really appreciate you, and thanks your wife again, sitting down with me.
Yeah.
And going through, and we'll have to look to sit down again, and then we can talk about what's going from man to man to zone coverage once you have that baby. I'm excited for you.
A few weeks, man.
It's gonna be good.
Hopefully, it's in a few weeks.
Hey,
we got a date coming up. We're going to get Indian food, and that's the food that kicks babies into action, man. So
yes,
my wife wants to be able to eat the Indian food because it's her favorite food. So.
Oh, there you go.
So we're trying to make it through that date before the baby comes. So thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely. Well, hey, everybody. Thanks if you made it to this far in the podcast, thanks for listening to Eli's story. Thanks for joining us again as we kick off the Skilled Dad podcast. And you can go to theskilleddad.com to learn more. That is a resource that we're continuing to build out and make better. If there's something you'd like to see more of, let us know. You can send me an email at zach@skilleddad.com or fill out the form on the website. We do have the old social handles, @skilledad, pretty much on everything. And we use some of them. So we're wide open to suggestions as we get going. This is kind of a one-man show right now. At the end of the day, what we're aiming to do on this show, people that help me, Eli, and those that come on the show is help other guys because we're men doing a lot of different things, working to take care, provide, protect, prepare our families. And the unifying factor we have is being dads. And so we want to hear your story, or if you know somebody that you think could benefit from Eli's story, share it with them. But again, thank you for joining us on this podcast. We hope that you take something from Eli's story and any of the stories that we've got here on the Skilled Dad podcast. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah.
You're listening to The Skilled Dad.